There's this idea of something called a cultic moment, or a moment where there's a large potential for spiritual renewal or a new religious re-engagement. This happens when there is a genuine spiritual need for new answers that are not given by established religious authorities. Often, these are met with huge amounts of resistance by the established order, but ultimately it leads to either a founding of a new religion, reform of a religion, or transformation of a religion. You see this with different movements, like for example in Islam, there was a movement of Wahhabism, which was getting back to the historical teachings of Islam and preventing the tide of secularism that was common among Muslims, leading to the more radical versions of Islam that still exist today. You see this with the movements of East combining with West in the 70s and 80s, as well as the 60s. This was a spiritual movement where Eastern religion was being rediscovered, and the ideas of reincarnation or spiritual awakening, or also things like the Jesus movement as well, came into being. There were new religious movements inspired by conversations between the East and West, and this created a new religious revival that transformed religion. The New Age movement came out of this, and also there were several movements that came out that were considered heretical to Christianity and other movements. Within times, people look for new answers that aren't answered by current religious practice. People find new texts of religions long forgotten and interact with them and develop a whole lore around them and reinterpret them for modern day. Some people look at texts overlooked by other religious passages. Like, for example, the idea of the Azusa Street revival in the 1920s, well, the early 1900s, where a spiritual movement was given based off of the spiritual moments in the Acts of the Apostles during Pentecost, which gave rise to the new movement called Pentecostalism. So with more movements, more spiritual reimaginings, these kind of cultic moments create new religions. Right now you see a variety of religions spreading out and changing and coming to being. Several people have their own idea of what the true religion is, or what the true way to follow God is. And with new questions come new answers, and these answers provoke new questions. As time changes, religion changes, because the answers that people are trying to answer and the questions people are asking are unique to the moment. I'm sure in this moment of AI and new technology and rapid change, and there's a new spiritual movement coming to either integrate AI into our lives or reject AI. There will be movements calling for super optimism. Some movements even focusing on transcending the need for biology. These movements are all movements you would see from a new spiritual awakening. And all these movements come at a time of deep uncertainty. So what is the right path through this way? Well, you will know them by their fruits. You will know them based off of what results they bring to their followers, how they create lives for their followers, whether there's a sense of psychological safety in their followers, how they interact with other groups. Is there violence? Is there breaking away from society or further integration with society? You'll see them by their fruits, by seeing how they create societies in their image. Each religion creates a society in its image, and the most successful ones create a beautiful society for their followers. The most destructive ones end up in blood and death. So be careful as you follow your path and as you navigate these new systems of being. In my journey, I have found ways to discern whether a new religious movement has something worth listening to, or whether it's something to avoid, or whether it's to be treated as a curiosity. And my method is this 3-point method. As I've said, first, you know them by their fruits. Second, they must not defy simple logic and established practices that are logical and fundamentally resolving in belief. And 3, they must not be destructive forces that destroy the family, destroy established systems, but rather they edify systems. If they break one of the 3 or multiple of the 3, then either something's wrong with the established system or something's wrong with them. And usually the established system has some legitimacy, if it's not completely unjust. So be careful out there as you go on your path.